What's up, everybody? Kick it. 1, 2, 3, up. Jesus, my Lord, will love me forever. No other power or evil can sever. He gave his life to ransom my soul. Now I belong to him. Yeah. Now I belong to Jesus. Jesus belongs to me. Not for the years of time alone, but for eternity. Oh yeah. From the top, let's go. Jesus, my Lord, yeah, will love me forever. No evil can save. He gave his life. Yeah. To ransom my soul. Now I belong. To him. Now I belong. To Jesus. Jesus belongs to me. Not for the years of time, but for eternity. How long? Forever, eternity. For eternity, y'all. That's it right here.
And welcome to another In Search Of, brought to you from the Women's Ministry at New Hope Seventh-day Adventist Church. And in this program, we kind of search for the intriguing, the informational, and the controversial from a spirit-filled perspective. And we're located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and my name is Marie Brathwaite. Let's pray. Father God, we just thank you for this opportunity that we can come together and learn new things. Dear God, you say in your Bible, an intelligent heart acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. Help us to find that knowledge as we seek it tonight. We ask in your name, amen.
Amen.
So tonight we are going into searching for our maturing bodies. You know, it's interesting that before certain ages, maturing is not necessarily an unpleasant thing. We desire it, but after certain ages, many of us view it not necessarily as positive, maturing, but a negative, aging. And we have varying emotions and trepidations associated with this process. From the moment an egg is fertilized by a sperm to form a zygote, the maturing process for human beings begins. It's God's handiwork in its purest form. We all want to mature, but we do not want to age. I think one of our greatest fears is to mature and not be able to do the things we've always done. participate in joys we were used to, be independent and in our right minds. So, is there a way to slow down the process? Here to help us out is Linval Williams. Hi, Linval. Welcome to our women's program. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come and talk with us. Your education spans quite a bit. You have an AS in Health Sciences from Caribbean Union College in Trinidad, and a BS in Health Sciences from Andrews University, my alma mater. You have a Master's of Public Health and Health Services, Loma Linda University, an AS in Vision Sciences, Southern California College of Optometry, and a Master's Vision Rehabilitation, Pennsylvania College of Optometry. You went from one extreme to the other. Linval has had his dream actualized when he was offered a job that combined his love for public health and his love for vision care. He worked at the Ohio Department of Health as the public vision consultant, vision consultant, providing clinical services to the children statewide that didn't have access to optometric and ophthalmological care, and developed protocols for vision screenings in schools. Later, he was promoted to the title of Vision and Hearing Coordinator, a position he held for 17 years before resigning and relocating in Florida. He is our health ministries director here at New Hope, and his mission in life is that all who come under his influence be in good health. So I am going to jump right in because I am of that maturing age, and I want to know what I can do to optimize this time in my life. So you're a fierce advocate for prevention. Right. And I really didn't understand this about you till you started doing our health nugget at church. And you took us through COVID, the whole COVID period, week by week, bringing us health nuggets that was not only to encourage us, you kept us abreast of all the things that were going on with COVID. You gave us tools to help strengthen our immune system. You gave us tools to uplift our spirits and keep us from going into depression. You really was on a move to keep New Hope Church going health-wise. And I would just like to say publicly that I really do appreciate those health nuggets were a marvelous work. So define the actual meaning of maturing or aging from a preventative aspect. We all know what maturing and aging mean, but what does it mean from a preventative aspect?
Well, first of all, I welcome this opportunity to be with you today. Whenever I have an opportunity to better people's health, I jump at it. One disclaimer I want to make is that I am not a medical doctor, and I will not be prescribing medical devices or medical prescriptions. There are a couple of supplements I will recommend later on in the program, but I just want to say that I'm not a medical doctor, and it would be a good idea, some of the recommendations I make, that one check in with their doctor before starting some of the recommendations that I make. So to answer the question, what is aging? One of the best ways I describe aging is to say that aging is wear and tear. Wear and tear. And when we go through life, everything that we do, there is a wear and tear component to it. And the more wear and tear we have, is the faster we age. So a good example is a tire that we put on our cars. And I use my parents as an example, and I use myself as an example. If both my parents went out and bought a tire, and I went out and bought a tire, that the tire that I have, because I do about 2,000 miles a month, would wear out quicker than my parents, who they just use their vehicle to go to church, to go to the doctor, to go to the bank and post office, and go to the groceries. And they do maybe about 50 miles a week, which is basically what I do in basically one trip. So based on the example of wear and tear, my tire is going to wear out sooner than my parents' tire. Comprende?
Mm-hmm.
So what we want to try to do is to minimize the wear and the tear that we do on our tire by doing helpful things such as our diet, our lifestyle, the amount of sleep we get, which we would basically be talking about. The thing is that when I put on 24,000 miles on my car and my tire gets worn out, I would go and I would buy a new tire. But with our bodies, we can't go and get a new body. And so basically what happens is we die. And according to the Bible, the wages of sin is death. And so when we wear out from we die. So what we try to do, and what I'll try to share with you today, are some things that we can do to either prevent the wear and tear or to minimize the wear and tear on the body so that we can have a longer lifespan.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was very clear. So you mentioned the Bible. What is the biblical view of aging?
Well, from my perspective, the biblical view of aging is found in Psalms 90, verse 10. And in that verse, it says that we are given 70 years. But if by reason of strength, we'll be given 80 years. And so the Bible basically says that our lifespan is between 70 and 80. Now, according to the CDC, the average American lives about 78.6 years. So we are right in that 70 to 80 year span.
So the Bible that was written so many centuries ago was right on point with what we're seeing today.
Right.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because in the Bible, you had Adam, who lived 930 years. His son Seth lived 912 years.
Right.
And his descendant lived the oldest man.
In Genesis 5, they have that list, right?
Yes.
Right. So what happened?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
and let me just say this point too. I read this past week of a woman in Japan. I think her name was Kane Tanaka. She lived to be 119 years old. So it can be done, but I digress. Going back to the 969 years to 80, that the Bible actually predicted.
Right. But first of all, to answer in 2 minutes? Okay. Adam and Eve ate of the fruit, and that gave us longevity. Okay, so that's the first thing. Secondly, when God created man, he put what's known as natural, when he breathed into our nostrils the breath of life, that was natural forces that he injected into our body. One of my favorite texts from a public health standpoint, being a public health scientist, one of my favorite texts is found in Deuteronomy 34, verse 7, where it talked about Moses. And it said that Moses lived to 120 years old when he died. Now, if we back up to beginning, which the Sabbath school lesson so beautifully is pointing out, man lived to be 900 plus years old. And the Bible said that he did evil in the sight of the Lord. Even his very imagination was evil. And God said that, he was not going to contend with man anymore. And so God diminished man's age to 120. Now, Moses lived to 120. Now, medical science today have documented or shown through computer models that all being equal, we can live to 120 years old, all being equal. And so right now, scientists and medical researchers are trying to implement protocols, supplements, that would help us to live to 120. So your friend, well, not your friend, but the person that you read about in Japan, she lived to 119. So she was right at that cusp as far as that was concerned. So back to Moses. Moses lived to be 120 years old. And it said that his eyesight wasn't diminished and his natural forces was not abated. Abated means basically diminished. His natural forces was not diminished. When we are born with a certain amount of vital force, natural force, and over time, that natural force diminishes. And then when that natural force runs out, guess what? We die. Okay? So again, to answer your question, at the beginning, 900 plus, sin, God diminished it to where he said, I will not contend with man anymore. I'll make it 112. Then by the time we got to David now, it had dropped to 70. And that's where we are currently, between that 70 to 80 year lifespan.
Yeah, the wages of sin.
Wages of sin.
Wages of sin.
Wages of sin.
You mentioned several times about natural forces.
Right.
I have never heard of that before.
Okay.
And that may just be me.
Right.
So where does it come from? What is it exactly?
Well, as I said, when God created man, he breathed into man the breath of life. And that breath of life that God breathed into us is what we refer to as natural forces. Another term that more people are familiar with are vital energy. So all of us have that vital energy within us. And basically, we are conductive beings. We are not flesh and blood as people think we are. If you look at us subatomically, if you look at us through a microscope, subatomically, we are energy beings. We have all these electrons and atoms, flowing through us. And the higher our natural, let's use vital forces, since more people are more comfortable with vital energy. The higher our vital energy, the more healthy we are. That's the simple bottom line. And one of the examples I like to use too is compare a group of 8-year-olds at recess time running around. They are full of vital energy. And if you walk into a nursing home where you have 80-year-olds, they are in wheelchairs. Okay? You can see that their vital energy, their vital force is diminishing. So over time, that vital force basically diminishes. And I guess maybe you might want to ask what are some of the things that help to increase our maybe I'll let you ask the question.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, that is something I want to know. I mean, what exactly diminishes and what exactly builds it up? I mean, it's
okay.
I know we're born with it, but how do we keep it going?
Right. Okay. Good question. No, there are. Okay, let's start with what diminishes it first. Can that be easier to talk about, and I'll go to what increases it. What diminishes our vital energy or natural forces quicker than anything else are our emotions. It's a mind thing. That's why for the past several months I've been talking about mind medicine. the impact that the mind has on the body. And so there are these emotions that diminishes our life force energy more than anything else. And there are 9 of them. And what I'm planning to do, maybe the latter part of the summer, I'm going to do a 10-part series on these deadly, I refer to them as deadly emotions. Would you like to know what the 9 deadly emotions are? Okay. So we have anger. Okay. We have depression. We have fear, grief, guilt, resentment, rage, worry, and unforgiveness. Those are the 9 deadly emotions that diminishes our vital force more than anything else.
Wow. So really, we're talking about most or just about all of the most negative emotions that we experience throughout life.
Right.
Each time we go through it. So that means if I get angry at someone, I'm diminishing
that natural force.
That natural force.
Right.
If I go into a state of depression.
Depression. Oh, depression is one of those ones because that really drains. And we see examples of people who are depressed. They have no joy in their life. They're just kind of out by the corner by themselves, and you can see they're moping. That really, really drains the natural forces that an individual has. But the one, and I just mentioned this, and like I said, I'm going to do a 10-part series, the latter part of the summer. The one that's more devastating is unforgiveness.
Unforgiveness.
Wow. I just want to inject something real quick. We are energy beings. Everything is energy. We are energy. Our thoughts are energy. Okay. And our thoughts or emotions do impact our body, and different emotions impact different organs of the body.
Oh.
Okay. So example, like anger, depression, guilt, resentment, those affect your liver. Depression, fear affects...
Wait, you're going too fast. What was it? Anger?
Anger, depression, guilt, and resentment. Those affect the liver.
The liver, okay.
Right. Fear affects the kidneys. Grief affects the lungs. Worry affects the stomach. Unforgiveness affects basically the whole body. And that's why, unforgiveness, as I said, I'll get into that, in the summer, but unforgiveness also has spiritual implications, because the Lord's Prayer, okay, Jesus said, if you can't forgive man, then God can't forgive us. So unforgiveness has spiritual implications as well. And that's why, Jesus talks about not forgiving a person 7 times. What did he say? 70 times 7. That's 400, 7 sevens is 49. That's 490 times. That's just to show how much unforgiveness damages the body. And that one really, really, really diminishes our natural forces, our vital energy. And that's why a lot of times, we hear stories a lot about women who went through divorce, and, let's say the husband left them for a younger woman, and she's resentment, she's angry, and she has unforgiveness in her heart. And 5, 6, 10 years later, you see that she comes down with breast cancer. Just like that. Okay? And one other thing I want to point out real quick, and this is just to, okay, let's move on, because
go ahead, point it out.
That our bodies are divided into quadrants, and the right side of our body has to do with masculine issues, and our left side of the body has to do with feminine issues. Okay, so if a woman has breast cancer on her left side, which is feminine issues, a lot of times she ends up having issues with her mother. She has it on her right side, she ends up having issues with her father or masculine issues, brothers, co-workers who are male, that type of stuff, and vice versa for females. And we'll get into that when I do my little.
Yeah, well, we're not going to be there for your little thing.
I'm sorry. I got off on a tangent. I'm sorry.
This is really fascinating that science has brought it down to right-sided and left-sided breast cancer due to your emotions. This is fascinating. I'm going to have to do a program on just emotions. This is
that would be a good one. That would be a good one.
This is mind-blowing. I have never heard that.
Okay, so let's talk about what enhances our vital energy. Okay, the foods that we eat. The foods that we eat. Now, all living things, like I said, are energetic, are energy. Energy has a vibration and a frequency. We, as humans, we have a vibration and a frequency. All our different organs of the body have individual vibrations. So overall, our bodies, we vibrate at a certain level. The higher your vibration, the more healthy you are. Okay, and again, I use the example of women in a nursing, not women, but people in a nursing home. Okay, you just see them in a wheelchair, someone has to come and feed them. Okay, their vibration is very, very low. Now, everything that's living has vibration. So plants, vegetables, nuts, they have vibrations, okay? Now we get most of our energy from the sun. So the sun shines on the plants absorb that energy, and through a process of photosynthesis, through the chlorine and chlorophyll, when we eat plants in this natural state, that energy is transferred to our bodies. Okay, so there's synchronization going on. So when we eat plants in its natural state, that energy, that vibration from the sun is transferred into our body, and that raises our natural forces or natural energy. And you notice I said in its natural state. So when you cook our food, we are destroying the natural forces. Has to be raw. And that's another topic by itself. That could be another presentation by itself. So a lot of times people say, well, I eat vegetables. But when you check it out, what they're eating is canned vegetables. That's heated, pasteurized, do all that kind of stuff. That has no vital energy into it. So here we think, oh, I'm serving my children carrots and corns and beans and string beans from a can. They're not getting anything basically from it. So it has to be in its natural force, has been in its natural state. And even if you do, let's say you get string beans and you're going to cook it, you have to make sure it doesn't go to a certain temperature, because you'll kill the enzymes in the food that we eat. So we get our natural forces from the foods that we eat. And also, I'm going to throw this in real quick, by adhering to the 8 natural laws of health.
Okay,
sleep and water, those are the things that keep our natural forces.
We're going to go get into the 8 laws of health in a little bit. Right. But before we get there, I just want to touch on something else. When we think about the aging process and its diseases, we generally think about diabetes, arthritis, heart disease, and hypertension, and things like that. Those are the common things we put to aging.
Right.
Okay. but there are others that we don't really hear about. And your expertise is in the eye,
Right.
right?
Right.
So let's just touch briefly, because this is a part of the process we go through, glasses and whatnot. Tell us about what problems we can look forward to as we mature. You know, you mentioned 34 Deuteronomy 34:7 about Moses's eyes.
Didn't diminish, right?
They weren't diminished, right?
Right.
But what are some of the eye diseases we get as we age, and is there a way to slow that process down?
Yes.
What are some of those eye diseases?
Okay. Well, I mean, the eye diseases. I took a whole semester just talking about different eye diseases.
Okay, well, we don't have a semester. So let's just keep it down to a minimum.
I was just being funny. We're going to narrow it down to 3. Okay. We'll talk about cataracts. We'll talk about glaucoma, and we'll talk about diabetic retinopathy.
Okay.
Okay. Now, cataracts is the number one condition that when we age that we experience. So when we get to be about 40, and 40 seems to be a kind of a magic age for some declining issues going on. I'll talk about that a little later on if I have the time. When we get to be about 40s, that's when when the lens, because cataracts has to do with the lens in our eyes, and the lens in our eyes start to turn yellowish. Okay, and then it gets to the point where it becomes so yellow that we have problems seeing through that lens, and then we have other issues. We have glare at night, especially when it rains. We have glare when we go outside, when it's bright on a sunny day. We have problems reading. So for individuals that have problems reading, they need a lot of light. Okay?
We've
So
lost
you get
your
a nice
picture.
lamp.
What's that? We've lost your picture. Ah, there you are.
Okay, sorry about that. Yes, so we need a lot of light. So a nice lamp or over. So if I was reading this material, I like to have the lamp over my head, shining on the paper, because again of that clouding, yellowing effect that we have. So it's like looking through a pane of glass that's dirty. You know, we don't have the ability to use Windex and wipe the pane down so that we can see outside. So the way that they clean that basically is to remove the lens and put in an artificial lens. If I was going to live my life over, I would become an ophthalmologist and specialize in doing cataract surgery. I can, but anyhow, but we all experience this yellowing effect that takes place. For some people, it's quicker than others, and there are factors that contribute to this yellowing taking place. One, the main number one culprit is ultraviolet radiation. So radiation from the sun that triggers the oxidative effect that takes place, and the eyes become yellower. Okay. Secondly, is the foods that we eat. Inflammation, and inflammation is everything. And I mean, we could do a complete topic just on inflammation, but inflammation is everything. The foods that we eat triggers the yellowing that takes place. Trauma, somebody gets punched in the eye, that can also produce. And there are other things like smoking. People that have diabetes, they're at higher risk for cataracts. How we can prevent it is to wear ultraviolet protective lenses. Okay, and the one point I want to stress about that more than anything else. I mean, there are other factors I want you to get, but this one here is very, very important. A lot of times, people will go to Dollar General or these stores And, there's display of all these different dark glasses. Those are the worst as far as protecting the eyes are concerned. They have to be ultraviolet lenses that have to be lenses that have ultraviolet protection in them. And the reason, real quick, is that if you go into a darkened room, your pupils dilate, okay? They get bigger so that more light will get into the eye so we can navigate where we want to go. If we are outdoors, our pupils constrict. That's why we squint. So our pupils constrict to prevent all that light from getting in. Now, when you go to a dollar store and you buy a pair of dark glasses that doesn't have the ultraviolet protection, when you put on those dark glasses, your pupils will dilate and more ultraviolet light will get in, which will cause more damage than if you didn't wear the dark glasses.
You're counterproductive.
Right. So you have to wear glasses that have an ultraviolet coating on them, and that's what you get from your optometrist or ophthalmologist. Secondly, is the foods that we eat. We can't eat foods that are highly inflammable. And so what's recommended is more of a plant-based diet. Okay, so that's cataracts. Glaucoma. Again, inflammation does play a very important role in an individual suffering from glaucoma. One of the quickest ways or the easiest ways to explain glaucoma is that we have inside the eye what's known as, name just slipped me right now, fluids in the eye, intraocular fluids in the eye that gives the eyeball a shape. If we didn't have the fluid in the eye, our eyes will, okay? So we have this fluid in the eye that gives us its shape. And the pressure in the eye has to be at a certain level. That's why when you go to the doctor and they put fluoresce, that little yellow stuff in the eye, and they measure, what they're doing, they're measuring the pressure within the eye, and there's a normal range that the pressure is supposed to be in. Well, with glaucoma, which can be due because you got punched in the eye, because of our diet or lifestyle, the pressure increases. And if the pressure increases, then that can be detrimental to the eyeball. A nice way to explain glaucoma is that you have water. Let's say you have a sink. You have water going into the sink, and you have the drainage. So what we want to have equal amount of water going into the sink as the amount of water leaving the sink. With glaucoma, what happens is that there's too much water. The faucet is turned on too high. So there's a lot of water going into the sink. And not enough water is going out quick enough. So what happens is that the water flows over on the top, okay? Unfortunately, or vice versa, there's water going into the sink, but the drainage is plugged up. And so there's not enough water leaving, and so water spills over. Now the eye doesn't have the capacity to spill over, so the pressure builds up in the eye. And what's detrimental about that is that it pressures on the optic nerve, which can cause blindness, and that's why glaucoma is one of the leading causes of blindness. So what they do is they'll prescribe eye drops, which will slow down the amount of water coming in, or they prescribe eye drops that will open up the drainage, like liquid plumber to open it up so that the water will come out, so that pressure will be at a normal level. So the key to this, of course, is to get regular eye exams, because we don't know when the pressure is too high, because a lot of times you don't feel pain until it really, really gets, out there too high. The other one is diabetic retinopathy, and also people that have diabetes tend to also have a higher incidence of glaucoma. But diabetes retinopathy is primarily those individuals that have diabetes. Diabetes is a sugar issue which affects the blood vessels, okay? And the eye has many blood vessels, very, very small, micro, blood vessels. And of course, if the sugar can affect the other blood vessels in the body, then it can affect the blood vessels in the eye. And then what happens is that some of those blood vessels start leaking blood. So the individual has blood in the eye. And we need a smooth surface in order to see adequately. And if there are too many blood vessels, it's going to affect our vision. We can't really see properly. And so they'll prescribe, again, medication. They'll do laser surgery to try and seal up some of those blood vessels, which in actuality would then affect the individual's vision. And that's why they have problems seeing. So with Moses, he had none of these issues. Okay, his vision was clear, his lens was clear, his glaucoma readings was clear. He had no diabetes, so he had no diabetic retinopathy. He didn't have age-related maculopathy. He was fine.
Wow. Glaucoma is the one that you can see that white stuff in the eye? When you see that cloudy look,
there are other things that would cause that too. There's retinoblastoma. There are other things that that can form that little cloud over the lens, over the eye. So there are several other conditions that can produce it. One other thing I forgot to mention is that stress does cause a lot of these problems. It exacerbates a lot of the problems that we have with the eyes. Cortisol.
Okay,
the hormone cortisol.
I was going to ask about that because for me, my biggest subject, and I because we're running out a little of time, I want to hit menopause and the hormones that are associated with it.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And this is just a joke. My name is not Dr. Pollyanna Barnes. I was trying not to say that I'm a male, and so that might be outside my. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm well aware of a lot of those issues because I have a wife who's going through some of those symptoms.
She might kill you for that.
I know. So, but before I go to menopause, I just want to say one thing real quick about PMS. Okay? And that one I've experienced because I have 2 daughters. But PMS, there are different classes that PMS can fall under. Okay? And the different classes has to do with the different symptoms that women experience. So some women, the symptoms that they experience are more on the physical nature, okay? And that's the tenderness of the breast, the swelling of the hands. There's another symptom, physical symptom that they have, the bloating. Those are physical, so that's in one class. Other women might not have those kind of symptoms, the physical aspect of it, but they have more the nervous symptoms, the irritability, the crankiness, the moodiness. And then there are other women who are more on the extreme end of that, and they have the depression, the sadness that comes around with it. So there are different classes that PMS fall under. And my fear, and I'm not a doctor, but my fear from looking at it from an alternative standpoint, because that's basically what I kind of specialize in, the alternative aspects of a lot of these issues, the preventative aspects of it, is that they lump everybody in and shake up the bag and say that that's PMS. I just threw that little sideline in. Menopause. Menopause is a pause in the menses. So women don't have menstruation anymore. It's a pause in the menses. Now, menopause can be, again, divided into different categories. There's the premenopause, that's the 40 to 50. There's the menopause, the 50 to 60. And then there's the postmenopause, the 60 plus, okay? So I assume when you ask that question, you're talking about the 50 to 60, the menopause that have, all those symptoms, the hot flashes and the night sweats and the hair falling out, the aging spots, all of those different issues. So it's basically a cessation of menstruation. But it has to do with the estrogen level. And estrogen is what gives women their characteristics, okay? And so estrogen is very, very important. But again, when we age, and same thing with men, testosterone is very important. That gives men their masculine characteristics. And those hormones, the testosterone and the estrogen, diminishes over time. So that's why they basically created Viagra for men, because there was a decrease in the testosterone and loss of libido, and all that. The same thing for women too. There's a vaginal dryness and the breast tenderness and all of those different issues, and it has to do with progesterone level. Now, I can talk another 15 minutes on this one particular aspect, but I'll narrow down everything to say this, that besides, the estrogen is going to diminish. That's a given. There are things that we can do to level out the drop in estrogen, which I'll talk about in a couple minutes, okay? I forgot the point I was going to make. Okay, so there are things that, I remember the point I was going to make. The different symptoms that women have, both from the standpoint of PMS and menopause, I attribute it to, at the top of the list, there are many, but at the top of the list is cortisol, stress. Stress, okay? So the higher the stress level, the higher the cortisol level, the more severe and intense the hot flashes, the night sweats, and all those other symptoms. Cortisol is a wonderful hormone, but when we don't respect cortisol, it damages the body. And that's why a couple of weeks ago, I did a presentation on why Blacks have the highest incidence of hypertension in the world. Cortisol is the chief culprit. And along with cortisol, there's epinephrine, which has to do with your heart rate, hypertension, and so that leads into anxiety issues. So it's hormonal. So, right. So, right. So to diminish these symptoms, we have to watch our stress level. But the type of foods that we eat increases our cortisol levels. So we have to watch the foods that we eat. So again,
it comes back to food. It comes
back to foods. So what we need to do is to, and I know some people are going to dislike me for saying this, is to cut down on the meat intake. Eat more plant-based products. Another thing that increases night sweats and hot flashes. Dehydration. And how much water do women or men really drink? And the older we get, our thirst mechanism diminishes, so we don't drink as much water, okay? So we need to cut down on, we need to increase our intake of water. We need to cut out sodas, because sodas are terrible. That's one of the worst things that they ever introduced to people, sodas. And sodas are very terrible, and there are different things that it does. And I even saw an article the other day, and I throw this out, that girls who started their menses at 9 and 10 years old, that they found out that their consumption of sodas was very, very high compared to those who had normal sodas. So for girls, you know, early menses is intake of meat and sodas. So we need to cut out the sodas. Also, we need to cut out, well, not cut out, because we can't cut it out. We need to diminish the amount of sugar that's taken into the body. Okay? So the recommendation, and for PMS also, and also for menopause, is cut down on the meat, an increase in plant-based fruits, nuts, vegetables, increase that tremendously. Drink lots of water. Cut out the sodas, and I will give a challenge. Do it for 10 days and see how the body reacts. Also added to that is going to bed at a normal time. And can I just talk about sleeping real quick as far as this is concerned? Our bodies operate on a circadian rhythm, okay? And between 10 and 2 o'clock is when our cortisol level is supposed to be down and the other hormones are supposed to be up, like testosterone, melatonin, and HGH, human growth hormones. Those are when those hormones come out. And those hormones are the hormones that deal with repair of the body. And remember, I talked about the definition of aging, wear and tear. When we go to sleep between 10 and 12 and those hormones are released in the body, those hormones are doing repair to the body. We don't go to bed because of this electronic environment that we are in. We don't go to bed at an early time so that those hormones can be released in the body to deal with repair of the body. And so we go to bed midnight. But unfortunately, what do we do up to those hours? We are watching television, we are on the computers, we're doing all of those kind of things. And unfortunately, when we are on the electronics at that point in time, the brain is very active. And so the brain increases the cortisol level. So even if you go to bed at midnight, your cortisol level is still high. So those other hormones that deal with healing cannot do its magic. And so we go to bed at midnight and we do this 1 day, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, a year, and the body is very capable of adapting. So the body will get accustomed to going to bed at midnight. And we think we are functioning adequately. So one of the things I hate, and my daughters are going to spank me for bringing this up, but one of the things I hate is when I hear people say, but I get 8 hours of sleep. You know, I go to bed at 2 o'clock and I sleep until 10 in the morning. That doesn't count. We need that restful release of hormones between 10 and 2. So if one is experiencing hot flashes and night sweats and all those other issues, you got to get the sleep, the restorative sleep that repairs the body. So sleep, water, exercise, and I found out that women who exercise and sweat, that their severity of hot flashes decrease 60%. 60%. So if you can sweat, go walking and sweat, where you can sweat, it decreases. So a lot of it that we experience, a lot of things that women experience is due because of lifestyle habits, lifestyle practices.
Wow. I'm gonna have to have you back and get some more, because this is the first time I'm hearing hydration for
Hydration,
menopause. Yeah.
right?
We're running out of time, but I would like to address, somebody is asking the question. Oh, by the way, for those who are listening, Women's Ministry did a whole program on unforgiveness and forgiving. So
Okay.
go back and look for it.
Okay.
Because if this is one of the things that causes problems and age us, go back and look at that program and see how we can do it. And also somebody,
before you ask that question, there's just something I want to show real, and I try and take 2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes. If your cortisol level is high, then one's DHEA level is low. Okay, DHEA is very, 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 and I say it one more time, very, very important for anti-aging. They call it the youth hormone. When a person is in their 20s, the DHEA level is very, very high. Okay, when they get to be in their 80s, it's 10% of what it was when they were 20s. So DHEA level is very, very important, and DHEA hormone is implicated in every disease that there is. Very, very important. DHEA is a hormone that produces testosterone in men and estrogen in women. Okay, so, all right. So anyhow, I said 2 minutes. So one of the things I want to recommend is they have DHEA supplements. Okay, I don't know if you can see this. This is the only thing that I would recommend. I'm going to recommend DHEA supplements, and this can be purchased at. I got these at Whole Foods, and it's about the one that men take is $9.99. There's one formulated for women, and I think that's like $14.
Of course, it's going to be more expensive.
That's what my wife said. No. Okay, but DHEA, and this will help with the hot flashes and the night sweats and those other issues. Now, there's another product called progesterone. Okay, progesterone. Progesterone is also another hormone is prevalent in the body. Progesterone is converted to estrogen. No, progesterone is converted to DHEA, and DHEA is then converted to testosterone and estrogen. Progesterone cream, which is natural. This is a natural stuff. I'm not talking about hormone therapy replacement. I'm not talking about, what is it? Premarin? Right, Premarin. That's synthetic. That's manufactured in a lab. Okay, I'm not talking about that. And in fact, women who are on Premarin, okay, their DHEA and their progesterone level is lower than women who are not in it. So that's making the situation even worse. But anyhow, progesterone, which is a natural type, also converts to testosterone and estrogen. So for the women who are listening, I would recommend DHEA for their husbands. It will increase their it will increase their test. You didn't see that. You did not see that. It will increase their testosterone level. They'll increase their libido and some other issues. They'll get rid of the excessive fat that they have, more muscle mass. And progesterone cream for men, because progesterone is also in men, and like I said, it's converted to testosterone. So these are the two products that I'm recommending. So as I said at the beginning, I'm not a medical doctor, but these are two supplements that I would highly recommend. And these two supplements will help with the symptoms that are going on. And in fact, you see, they said that in women who are experiencing menopausal symptoms, that they found out that the progesterone level was diminished. So these are two products that I recommend. But this one here, you take it one a day. This one here, twice a day. You rub it on your thighs, rub it on your chest, and you go to sleep. That's basically how it works. Now, this one is pretty expensive. It's about $30. And I got this at Vitamin Shop. No, so I got this at Whole Foods and this one at Vitamin Shop. So these are the two supplements that I would highly recommend for both men and for women. Okay. The other question.
Yeah, we've just about totally run.
I know. I'm sorry.
But
I'm too long-winded.
I would just like to say this question, and then you've got 1 minute to answer it. So how do we keep the emotions in check so as not to damage our organs?
Be mindful. Be mindful. That's all I have to say. Be mindful. And a lot of times when something happens to me and I want to react in a certain way, I am mindful of what my outbursts, what I would say would affect, how it would affect my body. Okay. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times too, I just need to say this, that a lot of times our perception of what's going on is what gets us in trouble. Our perception. And a lot of times, if you would sit back, take a deep breath, count to 10, and look at the situation that's causing us to have that emotion, we will find out that it's not really as bad as we think it is. And let's give you a quick example. My daughter called me on the phone and she was upset because she was in the library studying for finals, and while her car was in the parking lot, somebody hit her car and drove off. Okay. And she was upset about it. So she called me. Okay. Tell me, Daddy, somebody hit my car, my baby, you know. And my reaction was to get upset because the first thing I was thinking was insurance, getting it to our body shop to do all that kind of stuff. And I thought about it for a brief moment, and I said to her, at least you weren't in the car when they hit you. It wasn't an accident. Okay, you were in the library when the car got hit. And just that changed her perception of the incident and my perception of what it is. And I didn't get a chance to talk about the 8 natural laws of health, and somebody in the chat mentioned it. What's our relationship to God? You know, thou will keep him in perfect peace whose heart is stayed on thee. You know, so again, that does come into play. And as I said, with this aspect of forgiveness, Father, forgive them. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And if he on the cross could have that attitude, they're nailing him on the cross. What about our spouse that said something to us that was hurtful, or our children, or our co-worker? You know, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And a lot of times I have to tell myself, well, they might be having a problem at home and they're coming to work and bringing it. Am I going to react to them? Am I going to make them make me upset? Am I going to make me get upset where it's going to affect my body? And so those are just some. And the last thing I have another question. There's one last thing I want to point out before I go, and I'll close on that last point. So ask your questions if you have any more.
No, we're going to have to wrap it up.
Okay. The last point I want to make is this. There are 2 recommendations. Well, I made several recommendations: the diet, the water, the sleep. I recommended these 2 products. The other thing I want to mention is grounding, earthing, walking on the ground. We are disconnected from the earth. And when we have all of these issues going on, the arthritis and all the itis, that our body's inflamed. We are highly inflamed, and inflammation basically means that our bodies are on fire. Okay? So when we are in that state, we talk about being energetic beings and foods that we eat. We talk about free radicals. All of those combine to make our bodies very inflamed. We are very positive as far as our bodies are concerned, which damages the body. The earth is negative. Okay, that's how it is. How it is. So when we step on the earth with our bare feet, those negative electrons are absorbed into our bodies, which would then neutralize the positive electrons that we have. So walking on the ground neutralizes the inflamed state that we are in. Walking on the ground diminishes some of the hot flash issues that we have, because one of the things that earthing does, walking on the ground does, is that it lowers the cortisol levels. Well, they might be having a problem at home and they're coming to work.
Go ahead. Somebody's got their mic open.
Yeah. So what it does, it lowers the cortisol levels in our bodies. And if our cortisol levels are lowered, our hot flashes will diminish. It won't go away, okay? But it would be diminished, or all the other symptoms that we have would be diminished. And one more thing. Hot flashes, headaches, those issues, water used externally. So one of the things that they recommend is to take a cold shower. And I know a lot of people have issues with that. And what that does, it lowers the body temperature. So they say take a tepid, just a little higher than where you would tolerate it, and take a nice tepid shower for maybe 2 minutes before you go to bed. That will help with the hot flashes issue. As far as the headaches are concerned, hot and cold foot baths would do, because what hot water does is that there's a vasodilate. It opens up the blood vessels. So if it's hot, the blood vessels dilate and the blood can flow. When it's cold, the blood vessels constrict. So doing hot and cold, the blood vessels open and close. It drains the congestion of blood in the head, drains the congestion of blood in the pelvic area, and that basically helps. So drinking the water internally and doing hot and cold foot baths, hot and cold showers will help to diminish a lot of the symptoms that. Also for PMS, that works great for PMS. The cramping, the grounding, the water, that does great for it.
Wow. As you can see, Brother Williams is jam-packed full of information that is valuable to us. And we're going to have to try and get him back so that he can expound more on some of these things that I've never heard of. I've never really been understood grounding and so on and so forth. But Brother Williams, Linval, thank you so very much for that wealth of information you just poured on us. And knowledge is a good thing.
People perish because of lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge, right.
And that's what I try to do as being, the health ministries director, to just give clues. And I'll end on this and say, I wish above all else that they'll prosper and be in good health.
Amen. Maturing comes natural as night follows day. We can embrace this process and approach it gracefully, or we can go kicking, fighting, and denying. But it does not have to be a battle. We don't need lotions, potions, creams, powders, dyes. If we read, study, and utilize the available information, we can slow down some of the negatives associated with the process of maturing, and even enhance the positives by using preventative measures, many of which Linval Williams has brought to us today. In doing so, we have the best healthy body possible to enjoy our mature years. Do the work and sit back and enjoy the benefits. The Bible says in John 12:12, wisdom is the age and understanding in length of days. And the Bible also talks about the good old age. Genesis 15:15, Genesis 25:8, First Chronicles 29-28 are some of those that talk about the good old age. Maturing is good. Most of all, if you're maturing, thank God daily and enjoy the years as they add up. The gray hairs, the wrinkles, and yes, the aches and pains. You're blessed. There are many who did not and may not have the opportunity to enjoy the maturing years. Embrace God's blessings and thank Him for your mature years. So in wrapping up, we'll say tune in Thursday, May 26th, when we go in search of again. And we're going to look for kitchen cures, things that will help us that's in our kitchen. So join us on May 26th. Our May Women's Ministry Prayer Breakfast is coming up, and we're asking all the women to join in. And not only that, at New Hope, our men are providing us with lunch for our Mother's Day. Our title will be Moments with Mom. So if you had a mom, if you have a mom, join our program. And if you'd like to contact us with questions, topics, or comments, please do so at empoweringwomen@newhopesda.org. Empoweringwomen@newhopesda.org. We'll say goodbye for now. Go back and review this so you can get some more of the information that was shared. And God willing, we'll see you next time.